Exploring Silo, Season 2, Episode 10, Into the Fire. Guys, we did it! We made it to the season finale! And perhaps unsurprisingly for a show like Silo, the mystery is nowhere near solved. But let's go ahead and break down what we think we know, starting with, we do not know why we're here. On the macro level, I am more confused than ever, as the introduction of this algorithm-like character sort of made me lean back towards some sort of AI keeping us here, robots, maybe false flag kind of operation. But we do get a flashback here to the time before the silos in Washington, D.C. with the congressman from Georgia's 17th district, where they're talking about the possibility of a terror attack from Iran that released a dirty bomb, which kind of leads us into thinking that maybe the situation that forced people underground from the start is real and the silos are actually necessary, or at least they were at one point in time. Of course, there's no telling whether or not we still need to remain in the silos, or if like some kind of AI or like overly cautious group of people has taken over and is now reinforcing the idea we have to stay in the silos whether or not it's true. Also, even in this flashback, the reporter is talking to the congressman and she's pitching her questions in a way that sort of suggests that there's some skepticism about whether or not this dirty bomb actually went off or existed at all. We don't know enough about this future world to know if she's suggesting that the whole thing is fake news or if this is some sort of like experimentation the government was doing that's gone wrong. We don't even know if possibly this is a stage thing to give the US an excuse to attack Iran in this world. Like, all of these are options, and I can only hope that we're not going to have to wait another 2 years to find out more about this storyline. And on the personal level, each individual character's motivations are kind of muddy. Like, for example, Knox, Shirley, Walker, and even Billings, I don't really know what they're going to do in the next season. Since they were able to trap Judicial in the Down Deep and they were able to get topside, presumably they've achieved their main goal. I know Shirley, Knox, and Billings wanted answers, but it's pretty clear they didn't want to go outside, and even if they had, Jules's return kind of puts a kibosh on that. I'm kind of assuming that all of them are going to want to work with Jules to protect and save the silo. I'm not 100% sure how she's going to communicate what she knows to them, or if she's going to do that, or if she's just going to ask them to do things and trust her, because we know that whoever it is listening all the time. And if Jules is forced to maintain some kind of secrecy while doing whatever it is she's doing, I think that's gonna hit a lot of people the wrong way, since their original complaints about the silo leadership was that they were keeping too many secrets. And honestly, I'm just really disappointed that in season 1, Jules discovered those files on Walker and Shirley in the judicial office and they never came into play here in season 2. I was really looking forward to a little bit more backstory about them, or for them to be a little bit more competent and capable. Part of what I've personally found a little frustrating this season is like Shirley, Knox, Walker, they haven't been as compelling, driven, or capable as Jules was all on her own in season 1. Like, that sense of drive, deep analysis, pieces coming together, one thing leading to another, like that detective revealing element just hasn't been there. And to a certain degree I understand, because Knox and Shirley are leading a rebellion and they have no frame of reference for what that would look like, what they want, how they could achieve what they want besides just like resisting and expressing anger. And all of that is kind of by design to keep these rebellions like suppressed consistently. Like, that's the whole Salvador Quinn plan in a nutshell. But even though this makes sense, it's not as entertaining or satisfying to watch, especially if we're not getting like more personal lore or backstory or like a recommitment to why they're rebelling, besides the fact it feels like they have to at this juncture. I do think Billings is the one to keep the eye on out of all these people, because while he's got the loyalty of the deputies in the sheriff's office, so he's going to definitely be the head leader for like most of the enforcers not stuck in the Down Deep. Where he goes from here is an open question, because I can totally see him siding with Camille or falling back in line with IT now that it's like taken over by Camille. But I can also see him keeping loyalty to the rebels, or maybe even trying to like straddle the gap between those two sides, as I think that's going to be like the new framework for the group in season 3. Lucas is also a huge wild card to me for season 3. I'm really disappointed in what they did with his character over the course of season 2, but especially here in this last episode where I was like leaving space for him to do something, show me something new. I really think he reinforced his speech to his mother about him always being a coward and always taking the easy way out. I know a lot of people have taken this action of him like not caring about his life anymore and standing up to Rob as sort of like interpreting that as like some found bravery or some confidence or standing on his his beliefs. But it really seems to me like he had a conversation with the algorithm told him he was powerless, he accepted that, and then just went about his day no longer caring because he was gonna die anyways. The same sort of cowardice and acceptance he was talking to his mother about in episode 9. We'll see what he does in season 3. He is gonna have a real chance to shine here because he knows so much information, he knows where he got it, like his ability to try and communicate that on the sly is gonna come into play. Also, we don't really know what he knows, so to a certain degree I feel forced to care about him. I also don't really know what's gonna happen with Solo and Vault 17. I don't super care about those characters, but it does feel very dangling plot threads. So are we gonna use some kind of communication in the IT room to keep in touch with Silo 17? Are they gonna figure something out that's gonna let them either go out in suits, or is the underground gonna be plumbed out and they're gonna be able to open the door and get to 18? It feels like Solo in particular still has information to impart, and I also think that Hope needs like a whole new life start. It's not gonna work for her in 17 even after Jules' sort of like outburst at the end. Plus their life in 17 is kind of barren given how few are left. This really might be the end of the show's exploration of Silo 17. It did feel a little bit conclusive with like the final closure Solo and Jules get when Jules departs the silo. But the story of like a broken down silo with just a few child survivors is really compelling and intriguing to me. I really hope we find a way to weave in their survival journey with the rest of what the show's trying to tell us. Jules like always gets to be a pretty clear motive. She's here to save Silo 18. In particular, she knows about the poison cap release gas system situation. Once she gets back up on her feet from like being set on fire by the Silo 18 entrance, I feel like it'll be pretty self-evident. Her whole goal will be getting into Judicial somehow, evaluating the piping system, and figuring out a way to disable or cap it. And I do feel like Camille's position is pretty self-evident as the main human antagonist. She was originally working in Judicial. I'm wondering if she is like the peer to whatever Solo's mom was doing, or Solo's mom knew about the gas contingency. And I think there has to be like a whole underbelly of people in Judicial that are in on some kind of secret that's separate from whatever IT is doing. My reasoning on someone in IT being in power and someone in Judicial also holding a secret power key comes from the fact that both of them are getting power from the outside. So I feel like each of them is holding something separate and important to the original creators of the silo. And I can sort of see reasons one might justify keeping knowledge of the others separate. If Camille is aware about this poison in Judicial, if the algorithm is the same at the bottom of the silo as it is in the IT room, and if it intends to like do some kind of poisoning endgame scenario, it makes sense that it would want to talk to Camille and not Rob or his son. Now, what's not clear to me is exactly how Camille will be participating as the human antagonist. It's possible she's both as power hungry and ruthless as a couple of these scenes have implied, and if that's the case, then I can totally see her being aware that the safeguard is a poisoning the entire silo sort of thing. Her liking having that sort of key to power and using it as like a blunt instrument to force everyone else down and do her will, which will make her like a very obvious, easy criminal that we have to defeat and overcome. But it's equally possible to me that the algorithm sort of like tricks her and manipulates her into the situation where like her doing what it wants, how it wants, will be protection for her son, for her husband, for herself. Maybe if they'll get to escape, if she's aware about the poison, or if she's not aware of exactly what the safeguard is, maybe she thinks executing on that is going to protect and save them in some kind of way. It's possible if that's the case, there's going to be a reveal and Camille's going to flip sides and join everyone else to protect against the poison. I also don't know how Rob is going to react to this like change in roles between him and Camille. Camille has always secretly been the driving force. Like she's been pushing Rob to do certain things. She's been taking action when he's hesitated. She's been more ruthless and shown like more resources than he has. But she's always kind of taken a back seat, hidden in that like motherhood role, or like that's what she used to do kind of role, and like sort of manipulated Rob by implying that he's doing it for their own good, for their son's good, for the good of the family. Her taking this more front-facing position where she's obviously the leader, I worry how that's going to change things in the relationship relationship, because I'm not 100% confident Rob understood that he was not the driving force between the two of them, and this is gonna make things like very clear. So I don't know if he's gonna be a supportive partner for her, or if this is gonna create like a rift in their relationship and he's gonna spin off. Moving into, we do not know who built the silo. I think it's quite possible at the end of this last episode we got a look at one of the founders of the silo. The junior congressman from Georgia's 15th district has his master's in engineers, and you certainly would need an engineer to build these silos. There's a reference to other work he had done, I believe, for the Army Corps. So it seems like he has both the training and the experience needed to do this kind of project, and certainly we believe these silos are set in Georgia, so he's also in the right place. Additionally, he has that date with the reporter where he gives her the Duck Pez dispenser that we've seen throughout the entire silo. I need to rewatch it and see if maybe he's also wearing like the watch that George had, that Jules has, that Jules' dad's had. It might be a little too much of a giveaway at this point to give us like all the big relics in one scene, but I wouldn't put it past the show either. That said, even if he is the builder of the silo, we don't know if this was US government sanctioned, if this was some sort of like dark experiment, if maybe this was a secret military deal, and we don't really know who got chosen to go into the silos. It seems very odd that this reporter was among them. Now, it's possible that this bad start to like the romance here might lead to them dating and being endearing to each other or something, but if their relationship remains slightly antagonistic, where one is skeptical of the other, her's inclusion into a silo is quite interesting. And that moves me into the door at the bottom of the silo. Is this thing a door, or is this just like a sealed end to something? I know that seems like a weird question, but we have been calling it a door with a tunnel that leads out somewhere. And when we saw it, I didn't see any handles or mechanisms. I guess it could be a vault door where the turn for the vaults is on the other side, but as it stands, it is looking more like a seal of some sort to me than a door. And if it is a door, is it possible that instead of connecting to the other silos, it connects to this 51st silo? Maybe all the silos connect to this 51st silo, like deep underground, that is maintaining power and I guess food for IT. And then let's talk about everything that was revealed about the safeguard. So again, I'm taking this a little bit with a grain of salt because Solo is recalling information from when he was 12. So he could have misunderstood what his parents were talking about, or he could have misinterpreted what happened, or he might be misremembering it. Like a whole bunch of things could have gone wrong here. But he claims that his dad was the head of IT, his mom worked in judicial, and because of this, the two of them collectively knew about this thing called the safeguard, which was in the judicial wing. It's this pipe that goes throughout the entire silo and can like automatically flood it with poison to kill everyone should that become necessary. They never exactly explain why that would be necessary. It's heavily implied that a rebelling silo that's pushing to go out is going to get the safeguard, but we don't know if they actually attempted to employ the safeguard in Silo 17 when there was a rebellion. We know if they tried to employ the safeguard in Silo 18, it hasn't taken effect as of the end of season 2. I guess it's an open question of how quickly they can enact such a safeguard. Even if we can prove the piping is there, and maybe even that the original intention was to flood some kind of gas into silos, we don't know if that mechanism is still in working order. We don't know if it's ever been deployed in a silo. We don't know why it gets deployed, and we don't really know who deploys it either. Like, I suppose it might be something that they do in the 51st silo, or something automated the algorithm can do if while it's watching it just doesn't like what's going on. But so far it seems like the algorithm has human people who do its bidding. One of them is in IT. I assume the other one is in judicial. I do wonder what the judicial algorithm stooge thinks they're doing when they employ the safeguard. And I kind of wonder what the point of the safeguard is, period. If we're to believe that these silos were created by the US government, perhaps by this Georgia congressman we meet, then we are to assume that they're for human survival. But their design is such that I keep coming up against the idea that human survival is not their primary feature. Where or they have backup power doesn't lead to that. The whole implementation of a safeguard that will kill everyone should certain conditions be met, again, doesn't seem like it's towards humanity's survival. But that moves us right into we do not know why everything outside the silo is the way it is. We're throwing a bone here with the idea of potentially a dirty bomb having done this damage. Even if that's the originating damage, there's still a strong implication that whatever is watching them deploys some kind of poison when a silo door gets opened and people go out. Solo makes it seem like the gas doesn't just happen inside the silo, but it happens outside the silo too. Because after his mother, quote unquote, caps the silo, she tells the rebels it's safe for them to go out if they want to, and they can just go. Or at least that's sort of like what Solo's babbling sounded like to me, which makes me think that her and her husband thought it wasn't safe to go outside because of the people watching them, not because it's actually dangerous out there. So that's an interesting concept that's totally separate from Solo's belief that possibly the soil has been irradiated or poisoned in some way, and when the wind kicks up, it kills people. Hopefully in season 3 we'll get some more flashbacks that'll give us a little more detail here too, leading us into we do not know when it will be safe to go outside. I actually think the rebellion in Silo 17 is indicating that to a certain degree it is safe to go outside. Now, I don't know if the cap that Solo's mom put on the poison broke, or if the pipe that does the silo isn't the same as the pipe that poisons people outside. Whoever was reacting to the door being opened, so it took some time for them to pump that gas up and then for it to impact people, where they can like preset that up when someone goes out to clean because they have alerts about it. But either way, the fact that people went out without a suit and lasted so long suggests that you could probably go outside and be okay, at least for a certain amount of time. Certainly Jules takes a firefighting suit and the good tape and is able to walk all the way over the ridge to Silo 18 and wander back into the silo. So minimally with the right gear, it's safe to go outside no matter what is causing the damage we see immediately around the silos. And then a couple last minute thoughts and feelings I had about the end of this season. I really am curious about how Bernard knew about Silo 17's rebellion and whether or not the silos can communicate with each other, because it would be really interesting to still get to talk to Solo in season 3. The sign language revelation by Walker was a little bit jarring. I know we had seen some hand signals done in the engineering room in season 1, and I think maybe even a little bit here in season 2, but I would have just liked a scene like maybe when they turned the generator off, if they had talked entirely in sign language, even though it was more quiet some of the time. Or if here in season 2 we'd made the sign language more important with like people having one conversation on the surface and another conversation in their hand gestures besides Knox and Walker. We could have had someone like Billings be like, man, it just seems like everybody knows what to do all the time without you telling them. Like the down deep is so in sync. And then Hank could sort of like laugh and be like, no, they're having like one conversation with their words and another with hand signals. Been something we planted early in the season that could have come back and felt more rewarding when Walker pulls it off here with Bernard. I've got to say the loss of Pete Nichols here in episode 10 didn't feel super satisfying to me. I really feel like it was just a way to write him off the show and move on with our life. And lastly, I've been considering reading these Silo books just so that I could get like more information, background, and detail to add into these conversations while we're discussing the show. Let me know in those comments down below if you would like that extra information or if you think it would actually take away from my ability to talk about the show. And if you've got this far and you have nothing else to add, leave me a light bulb emoji in those comments down below. As always, keep reading.